We're in for a real treat this morning. I told you we was going to move to the next level. I had breakfast, and I've known Don Gallegos for several years, at least since 1988. I know when we started the LBO, Don, we all in this together. We had our challenge, and as you saw, the interest rates up here on the board have come down considerably. The company is doing very well. But one of the most interesting, vibrant people in this whole company of ours is Don Gallegos. You hear about customer service. You talk about customer service. We talk about what it does for us, but you haven't seen nothing yet. You haven't heard nothing yet. Don and I was having breakfast this morning. He was telling me about a store in the Denver area that does $1 million a week. You saw our average up here on the board, $303,000 per store. Don's stores average $500,000 per store per week. They have Cub. You're talking about a new Cub opening across the street from this store, and the store's still running $1 million a week, his store, King Super. You know, you got to wonder what makes a person turn right or left if they can go right and save 10% on their groceries. You won't have to wonder after you hear Don talk today. You will not have to wonder why they do that. Don was talking, and you know, every time we talk about something this morning, try to talk about the Super Bowl or something. He said, I don't go to those things anymore because I don't get good service to hotels when they're full. I have to wait on elevators. Don is so service-oriented, that's all he talks about. It's all he wants to talk about. He got me back to this subject. The success that King Super has had in this company of ours is unprecedented. I don't know, I didn't ask Don what his bottom line figures are, but I know what King Super's run. Their percent to EBITDA is as high as ours or higher, even though the volume they run. Don Gallegos walks and talks service. I was at a meeting of a service director, I guess it was the service 800 line numbers of the people in our company who Don came and spoke to about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. I have never been more fired up after a presentation in my life. So we asked Don to come back today, and you got to wonder what Don has nothing to gain from coming back and talking to us except it's something he believes in. He left, got in here at 11 o'clock last night, got up this morning at 4 o'clock Denver time, and is here for no other reason than to share with us what he does at King Supers and how he walks and talks service. Don, I certainly appreciate it, and I know this group, after they hear you talk, will be more fired up to go out than ever. And at this time, I'd like to present to you the president of our King Super marketing area, Mr. Don Gallegos. Don.
Now you really scared me. How do you turn this on? Is that on? Is that on? Go ahead. Oh, I can't hear it. I guess I better move it down a little bit. I need a spot so I can put some notes here. I'll put this down here. After I saw your numbers, I got really nervous because I thought, geez, you guys don't need any help. With that kind of a success that you've had over the last 6 months, it kind of bothered me that you're that successful. I decided they probably don't want to hear this, but I am going to do it anyway because I came all the way from Denver. And by the way, those of you who don't know, we have the Colorado Rockies, and any of you who follow baseball know that the Colorado team set an all-time attendance record last year and we're in last place. And this year, well, they beat Toronto's, which was, they did a little bit around 4 million the year they won the pennant. And the Colorado Rockies did 4.5 million, and they were in last place. So it shows you in Denver, I've come to the conclusion that the people in Denver don't have much to do. So that's the way it is. Anyway, I'm happy to be here, and I do this a lot. I told Bill, I said, I do it for you, Bill, because I do it for the Kroger company, because I believe it. I believe this very sincerely, and I think that a lot of people do. I think if you talk to any president of any company, they will always say to you, if you ask them what's the most important thing, they'll tell you, yeah, customer service is number one. But the difference in companies today are those that practice it Those that live it, not those that talk about it. And you got to do it. It has to become a real passion, and it has to be that everybody that works for our company has to believe it and know it and understand it, from the switchboard operator all the way through the organization. We have 15,000 employees. And unless 15,000 employees are empowered and understand what it means to take care of our guests, by the way, we refer to our customers as guests, then will it work. This is the 5th year that our company is going to go to long-range planning, and we go every year, 15, 18 of us, and the only thing on the agenda is customer service. Nothing else. No numbers. Knows how many stores we're going to build. What's the profit projection? Who the hell cares? That number's already in. We bring in an outsider. I think some of you probably know Kai Dozier. He's our facilitator for this meeting. And every year we leave with a new plateau of how we're going to increase our customer service. And it is absolutely, we will not get off of it. And the day that we get off of it is the day we don't have any more complaints. Think of that. Because if you don't set your target like that, you'll never get there. You'll never get to 50%. I'm going to share with you some stories that have happened to me in my career, and I'm sure some of you probably could relate to this. And I just want to share with you because, first of all, what I'm about to tell you about our company is that we probably have 2 policies. You probably don't have this, but we do. We have the policy we think we got and the one the store's using. And, of course, you guys don't go through that, but we do in our company. So what we do is that we have a system in our stores, and it's not unusual. I think everybody would agree that everybody's got customer service cards, right? Customer can write in, and they get a response, sometimes. In our company, I think we do it just a little bit different. These are the cards that are in our store. They're everywhere. They're at every check stand. We have, as you walk out of our store, those of you who have been to Stu Leonard's have seen his big board where it says, Stu wants to know. Have everybody have seen that? And he wants to know so that before you leave, if you're mad, tell us what we need to do to help improve the store, whatever, okay? And they answer. We do the same thing. We doubled our card intake, by the way, by doing that. We want to hear from them. A store isn't judged on how many cards he doesn't get. A store is judged on how many cards he does get so that we can improve our operation. Because everybody's different. Remember something. Nobody knows good service till they get it. You don't know good service till you get it, and I don't know it either till I get it. And as soon as you get it, you switch just like that. You'll switch, and so will your customers. And remember something. We pay this much attention to it for one reason. Every guest that walks in our store is worth $5,000 a year. And if they stay with us for 10 years, it's $50,000. Now let me ask you something. What's it worth then to give them what they want? 50 grand. That's the decision you're making. Anytime you figure out how not to take care of a guest, it costs you 50 grand. Just look at it that way. Or 5,000 in a year. So here's what's happened. By the way, I want to tell you one thing about our policy. We have a no questions asked policy on refunds. Anybody can walk in our store. Whether you live there, go out there and fly on a plane tonight. And tomorrow morning I want you to walk up to one of our stores and tell them that you've got a bad steak last night and you want your money back. You're to get your money just like that. No receipt, no old steak, we don't care. All we want is you. We only want to keep the customer. We're not interested whether they bought it from us or not. We're only interested in keeping you. So these cards are written, and here's how they're answered. The store manager has to personally call the customer. Every card, whether it's a complaint, compliment, sometimes the assistant manager, and they have to write on a form like this and tell us what they told them. And the district manager then reads the card and the answer to see if he's satisfied with the answer. And then it comes through the director of operations, he reads them, and then every day my secretary puts 15 of these on my desk, 15 on the executive vice president's desk, 15 on the director of operations desk, so that between the 3 of us, we're reading over 300 of these a week. It's not delegated. We read them. I read them. I want to know. I can't read them all, But I want to know what the customer says about us. And it's interesting. To this day, I still send back about 10% of them because they weren't handled right. And when I say that, they're handled okay. But they're not handled so that the customer won't switch. Very important that they won't switch. I remember reading one of these cards. Guy wrote on there, he says, I was so damn mad. He said, I started to cut this meat, and he says, I was ticked off as hell. He says, so I got up from the table. I threw that thing in a sack. I got in my car, and I drove over to your store, and I went up to the counter, and I put it down there, and I said, damn it, this is the second time this has happened, and I'm sick and tired of it. And your head clerk said, fine, sir, what would you like? Your money back or another steak? He said, not only did he give me my money back, but he gave me another steak for my trouble. He says, the next time I get that mad, I'm going over to Safeway and give them hell. And you know what? There was a Safeway store right across the street from this store. And the kid in his first step of management did it like that. That quick, a lousy $6 deal, see? And do you think the guy will switch? I don't think so. He already said the next time he gets that mad, where's he going? Refunds is very difficult to deal with because people want to win. You don't like to be taken. I don't like to be taken. But it doesn't matter. It's peanuts. It's peanuts. I was in a store one day when I was a district manager, and a guy in the meat department says, Gallegos, come here. I said, what? You and that damn refund policy. I said, what is it? He said, come here. Takes me in the cutting room, unwraps this little package, and here's a steak, and he holds it up. He says, look at that steak. I says, what's wrong with it? He says, you think I cut meat like that? I said, hell, I don't know. He says, the lady bought this from Albertsons. I said, really? I said, how much did you give her back? He says, $8.53. I says, ain't it great? For $8.53, you kept a $5,000 a year customer. Isn't it fun? He didn't think so. Meat guys are kind of funny guys. They think that they never did this thing. I don't understand it. This guy, same guy, I told him, I said, just think, you're not, I don't care that you got it from Albertsons. Who cares? So about a month or two later, the same guy, a lady brings in a ham, shows it to him, says, I bought this ham here last Saturday, and look at all that fat on there. And the market guy says, lady, you didn't buy that here. She says, look, I was here Saturday, I bought that ham here, and I want my money back. He said, fine, lady, I'll tell you what, we're going to give you your money back, but you didn't buy it here. So how do we know that story? Because she wrote the letter. Well, now what do you think we were doing the next day? We're over at her house with a cake, apologizing, and another ham. What'd that cost us? Would have been simple just to take care of it. See, people, you know what the employees say at King Soopers? But Gallegos, we're going to get ripped off. And I tell them, yes, ain't it great? We already know that. You don't need to tell me something I don't know. I know we're going to get ripped off. Isn't it fun to think that I know you're clipping me and you don't think I think so? Isn't it great? Now I know it. Who won? Look, we have bad checks. You got bad checks? You take checks out of the policy? Huh? Don't you have a policy? Do you take checks out of the policy? You know why we don't know whether you do it or not? Because the checks you take out of policy and they don't come back, we didn't know it, did we? Because they're okay. But I love it in the office. When a check comes back and it's stamped account closed, this guy's no good and all that, they bring it out to the store and say, what'd you take this check for? He says, hell, it wasn't stamped like that when I took it. Hell, you know, the office does have an advantage, right? Say, take it later. We lost $500,000 last quarter on bad checks. $500,000. $2 million a year. Now, I don't want to lose $2 million a year, okay? Either do you. Except for one little thing. We did an analysis. 99.6% of the checks we took were good. 0.4% made up the loss. Shall we change the policy? The accountants would have you do, no offense, but the accountants may have you do that. But you can make that look good, but remember something, you can cost your way out of business too. And that's what you would do when you change that policy. You got to take some risks. And I always say this, and I say this to you. Part of any policy ought to be written, you do things out of the policy. Because everybody's different. You can't, you know, it's probably, you don't have this in your company, I don't think, but in our company, we have customers that are real jerks. You know, sometimes you get a jerk coming in, you know, where he's just a real jerk.
to put it nicely. And he's the kind of guy that when he walks into the store, you know, nobody wants to wait on him. Go, psst, guess who's here? You wait on. No, I don't want him. And they're all trying to get rid of him, you know, that kind of guy. See? And so when I was a DM, we had this kind of guy. He writes a letter to the president of the company, and he's sick and tired of our lousy service in the pharmacy. So I get the letter and says, Don, take care of this. So I go out to the store and I talk to this pharmacy manager. I said, what's the problem? He says, Gallegos, you don't understand. I said, well, what do you mean I don't understand? He says, this guy's a jerk. I said, I know he's a jerk. What did he do? He says, he does this all the time. I says, what does he do all the time? He says, well, he phones in his prescription. He renews it every three months. And he phones it in, and 20 minutes later, he's standing there wanting it. And I got all these people waiting out here, and he's raising a scene. I said, well, if he does this all the time, and you know that, why don't you drop everything and get it ready for him? Then all you got to do is hand it to him. He said, well, yeah. Well, what if everybody did that? I said, does everybody do that? He said, no. I said, then what's the problem? 3 months later, transferred that pharmacy manager unbeknownst to me, and we got a new one. And he went to the same school the last guy went because the jerk did it again. Letter comes, written across the top from the president, says, Don, I thought this was taken care of. I did too. I'm driving to the store, beads of sweat coming down. After all, I got a big family. And as I go into the store, I stop by the service counter and I see this girl that I know, and I start to talk to her and everything. And I says, oh, by the way, do you know this jerk? And I didn't call him a jerk, call him his name. She says, oh, yeah, he's a real jerk. I says, is that right? And she says, oh, God, he drives everybody nuts in this store. He's an eccentric and everything. I says, really? I says, does he spend money in this store? Oh, my God, he spends a lot of money. And I said, we're trying to get rid of him. She says, not only that, my manager told me that if he comes in and asks for me, tell him I'm out. He says, the manager told you that? She says, yeah. This is a bigger problem than I thought. So I get the manager and the pharmacy manager together and says, tell me what happened. Manager says, Gallegos, you don't understand. This guy's a jerk. I said, I know he's a jerk. What did he do? Pharmacy manager says, well, the last pharmacy manager told me he was going to do this. I said, well, he told you he was going to do what? Well, he's going to call in his prescription, and then he's going to show up 20 minutes later, and he does this all the time. Hell, I had all these people waiting. I said, well, if the last pharmacy manager told you that, and you knew it, why didn't you drop everything, get it ready, then all you got to do is hand it to him? He says, yeah, but what if everybody wanted that kind of service? I says, does everybody want that kind of service? He said, no. I said, then what's the problem? 2 months later go by, and 2 months later, yeah, same guy goes into the store on a Saturday night. He wants to get 8 steaks cut an inch thick, and he wanted to go in the cutting room and watch him do it. And they wouldn't let him because he's a jerk. You know what they told him? They told him it's against the health department rules, which is bull, okay? Third letter now. Now I've had it. I said, you know, my career is at stake here. So I go out to the store. I say, I'm going to have a department head meeting. I have the department head meeting. I get all the department heads from this store up there in the conference room. And I said to the market guy, tell me what happened. He says, Gallegos, you don't understand. This guy's a jerk. I know he's a jerk. What did he do? Well, he came in Saturday night, and he wanted to get 8 steaks cut an inch thick, and he wanted to come in the cutting room and watch me do it. I said, why didn't you let him do that? He said, gee, what if everybody wanted to come in the cutting room? You know, same school. I said, geez, you go to pharmacy school? I said, wait. I said, they teach you this stuff. So you don't teach them this stuff. I said, does everybody want to watch you cut steaks? He said, no. What's the problem? So after a 45-minute dissertation on customer service with this group, I leave. 2 months later, guess what? I get a glowing letter from the jerk. He loves us. He can't believe the service he's getting. Now here's the corker. He's still a jerk, only now he doesn't think we think so. Big difference. Remember, the customer's not going to change. You're going to change, or they're going to change for you. They're going to go someplace else. Do you know something? There's a Safeway store 4 blocks from this location, and the only reason he didn't switch was Safeway didn't have a pharmacy. See, that's all it is. Everybody's different. We all have different things. You can't just say, that's the policy. You can't do this. It's in the book. Where is it in the book? You know, you guys got video run, we got video run, right? And we have late charges, right? Okay, we got to have late charges because you got to control it. Somehow. But there are times, damn it, on late charges, our people should be empowered to be able to think on their feet this quick. I had a guy write me a letter from Colorado. Now remember, 5,000 a year customer. Guy writes me a letter. His kids are like my kids. They know how to go to the store to rent the video. They don't know how the hell to get them back. See? They rent them, lays in your house for 10 days, and this guy's ticked. I guess I better take him back. Johnny isn't. So he takes him back, and he shows up, and he sees Catherine, the head clerk, and says, Catherine, you know I'm in here all the time. Yes, yeah. He says, can you do something about these late charges? They're $10. $10. So she starts to think, $10, huh? Well, let's see. I'll tell you what, we'll make it 5. He's mad, isn't he? 5? How cheap? Guy asks a simple little thing, and we figure out how he's trying to get to me, huh? So he writes me the letter. And I thought about it. I says, my God, we don't make money on late charges. We make them renting videos, don't we? So when they bring back the videotape, go around the counter and hug them. Why? They brought back the tape. You can rent it now, damn it. You can't rent it when he's got it at home. So it's the important thing. You know what we did? We ran an amnesty. In fact, we just did it again. We've done it twice a year. Do it twice a year. We run an amnesty ad. And we tell the customers for the next 7 days, bring back all your tapes, and we wipe the slate clean. We got back over 800 tapes, most of them from our employees. Yep. It's nice of them to do that. We had a lady that was shopping our one store. Listen to this. And she comes in with 2 tapes that she said that she found behind the couch. Of course, that was right after she read our ad. And do you want to know something? What the late charges would have been had we assessed them? $84. Let me ask you something. Is she renting videos from us? No. Why? She's in the computer on those tapes, right? So guess what happened? We got back the tapes, and she now rents from us. Who won? We did. Don't zero in on the wrong things. Zero in on sales. That's the lifeblood of the business. And the only way that I know of that you can improve and become top dog is through the customer. You will never be number 1 without the customer. So if that's true, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that, you got to do everything you can do to keep them. Remember, you gain customers one at a time, and you lose them one at a time. And the customer you lose today will not show up in your sales tomorrow, but it will in 5 years. Let me tell you something. I used to travel a lot. I was with the corporate office for about 8 years. And I called on 5 supermarket divisions. And as a result of that, what happened was I lived in I worked for the corporate office, but I lived in Denver. See, I made a trip to Hutchinson, Kansas, and after I was there about 2.5 minutes, I decided I think I'd rather live in Denver. So I lived in Denver, and so I had, but it required me to fly a lot, and I had to fly. I was on the airplane all the time. And when you fly these airlines, you know that you accumulate miles, and as you accumulate miles, you can take them and convert them either to free tickets or upgrades to first class. And I would convert mine to go fly first class, upgrade to first class, all that I could. United Airlines would charge you $20. Continental was free, upgrade. One day I had to go to Dallas, Texas, and I had to be back that night. And the only way I could go was American Airlines, and I'd never flown them. So I got there at 6 o'clock in the morning, got to the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning. I says to the girl, I says, I've never flown you guys. She says, is that right? I said, no, I've been flying for 8 years. I've never been on an American Airlines plane. I said, do you have these clubs you join where you accumulate miles and you can, yeah, you want to join? I said, sure, I want to join. So she keys it in, it's early in the morning, hands me the card right there. I said, well, now, is your airline that you accumulate so many miles, you can upgrade to first class for $20 like United? And she says, sure. She says, you want to go first class this morning? I said, well, yeah, but I don't have any miles with you. She said, well, you're a first-time traveler. I'll do it for you for 20. Oh, okay. I says, geez, is this America? So I reach in, I pull out the 20, give it to her. So I start to walk away. She says, just a minute. I notice you're coming back this afternoon on Continental. And you got to remember, I'm upgraded on that one free. I said, yeah. She said, if we have a plane that leaves an hour later, and if you'll wait for us, I'll upgrade you free. An hour later. I said, okay. So I do it. And as I'm walking to the plane, I'm thinking to myself, how stupid could I be? Do you know how many late flights I must have? And I'm going to wait an hour extra for her? She wasn't even that good looking. And I did this, see? So I'm on this. Guess what? I'm on this plane. It's fantastic. I can't believe the service. I'm going bananas. It's crazy that she would do this, and I made that switch. 2 weeks later, I had to go to Chicago. Guess how I went? American Airlines. 2 weeks after that, I had to go to Cincinnati. Guess how I went? American Airlines. You know what's interesting about that? I thought about my behavior on that, and I'm probably just like everybody else. Listen to this. Continental and United didn't do anything wrong, but they didn't do enough to keep me from switching, did they? Because if they would have been that good, I would not have switched. And they weren't. Good, but not that good. So remember that it's one thing to be okay. It's another to do it so that they don't switch. I always answer my phone when I'm in my office. Switchboard operator knows that if there's an irate customer on the phone and the only person they want is the president, they're to come and get me, and I don't care if I'm in a meeting with God, that being Dave Dillon, come and get me. And they do. And you know what happens every time? The customer can't believe it. You know, once I'm on the phone, they say, this is Mr. Gallegos, can I help you? They can't. Now I got them. I got them in the palm of my hands. First of all, how many of you think you can call the president of the company and get them? How many do you think it'll happen? How many of you will get one that will call you back? They will not do it. They talk about it, but they don't do it. They delegate it. They give it to a people. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't answer every phone call, but I'm saying that if that's who they want, you get me. My number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And anytime that operator customer's like that, they're to get me. You find me, I have a card full, put it on there. I have a recorder on it, everything. Why? If I don't send that message, how the hell else is everybody else going to get it? You can't make exceptions. You can't, everybody has to understand it. I got a call from, that was crazy. I was walking in my office just 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was going by and the phone was ringing. And I just picked it up and said, Don Gallegos. He says, is this the Don Gallegos? I said, well, I don't know if it's the, but it's him. She said, I got a question to ask you. She said, I rented some videos 2 weeks ago. And it was the next day I got a death in the family and I had to leave town. And I was gone 9 days. And when I came back, I took the videos back at 9 o'clock at night, and your employee told me that the late charges were $40. And I needed to rent another video, and he wouldn't let me till I paid these charges. And so we negotiated it. We negotiated down to 20. So we negotiated down to 20. And she said, when I came home, my husband said, there is no way that is King Soopers policy. He said, why don't you call some other stores and check it? So she did. She called some other stores and found out that that was not the case, that we would have waived it completely, particularly in that case. So she says, the reason I'm calling you is I want to hear it from you. What is the policy? I said, well, first of all, you don't owe us any late charges. Oh, she says, no, I owe you late charges. I said, no, not anymore you don't. She said, and then she started telling me that her husband loved the movie Harvey. Harvey is a movie that came out long before most of you were born, but it was with James Stewart, and they couldn't find it, and her husband loved it and all that. And I'm getting this as a side bit, so I said to her, listen, give me your address and everything. I really appreciate you calling. I said, we have done a bad job training. All you store managers remember something, and I say this to all of our management people. Do you really believe that our employees come to work every morning to screw us up? You think, I wonder what I can do to mess up Kings today? You know? They're there thinking they're doing it right, aren't they? Do you think they really did this because they wanted to mess us up? No. And so, knowing that, I said to her, I apologize, we apparently have done a bad job training because I don't know where this, I didn't say that, I don't know where he's coming from, but that's what he did. So whose responsibility is that? Ours. We have to understand they're not here to mess us up. We did it bad. So I called the manager and I said, Jay, here's what you do. Take her back $30, give her 10 more plus the 20, and find the movie Harvey and give it to him, which he did, delivered it to the house. By the way, I might tell you, on these cards, when the complaint is really bad, I mean bad, we don't call. We show up at the house. Because there's always an element here. When a customer's really mad and writes it, they're hotter than hell. And then 3 days later, they've cooled down, and if you called to come and see them, they're going to tell you what? Oh, it's not necessary. It's okay. Thanks for calling. But you see, that's not good enough, because that's what Safeway will do, or Albertsons, or any of the others. No, we're different. We show up, and when you got a cake and a ham in your hand, and you ring the doorbell and say, hey, I'm from King Soopers. I want to apologize for what happened. I don't care if there's a wedding going on. You're coming in, buddy. And guess what? They're going to be knocked out. And then when you leave, guess what they're going to tell all the guests? You know who was here? King Soopers. They probably, I can't believe what they did. Okay, nobody believes it. But that's why we spend that kind of time. People say to me, well, how do your managers have time for that? They better have time for that. There's nothing more important. I can't think of it. Can you tell me what's more important than that? I can't think of a thing. It's the only thing that drives sales, isn't it? So why wouldn't you? You got to realign your priorities. It's number one. So I told Jay after that, when you talk to the clerk that did this, don't chew him out. He won't know what the hell to do next time. Ask him why he did it so that we can learn. He says, okay. So he does. Called me back the next day and he says, guess what? I said, what? He said, you know, I was talking to her. She didn't seem that upset. And I was only trying to make the extra money for Kings. Well, that's how he thought, didn't he? As if the 20 bucks is going to make or break us on the bottom line. Gee, many Christmas. So we have to empower the employees to do it, to do what it takes. We have an SOS program in our stores. It's called Special Order Service. We'll order anything. You ask, we'll get it. I don't care if we have to go to Boston, to New York, we find it. We have 6 districts. There are 6 district special order people who round up the special orders, and then they order them through the buyers. And they, customer doesn't have to buy a case. And let me tell you something. We're doing almost 1,000 special orders a week. And you know what? Is it a pain? Hell yes, it's a pain. The warehouse has to mark it special, and then the night crew has to receive it, mark it special, hold for Mrs. Jones. Got to do all that. A lot of trouble, right? So is bagging groceries a lot of trouble, damn it. Shall we give it up? There's a lot of things that are a lot of trouble, but that's the difference. How many chains will do that? How many will do it? It is so powerful. A store manager in Colorado Springs, the lady wanted Albertsons private label mayonnaise. Well, it's obvious we don't carry Albertsons private label mayonnaise. But our manager went to Albertsons and bought a case of it. And he put it in his office. And he told her, from now on, when you want it, it's right here in my office and you help yourself. Oh, and by the way, it's cheaper here. Yeah. Thinking? He didn't have to call the office. Didn't have to call his DM. He just did it. And you know what? It's very important the employees understand one thing. You can't get in trouble if your intent was to satisfy the guest, as long as it's not illegal or immoral. You've got to qualify these things sometimes. They get us in a little more trouble than I wanted to be in. But it's very important. I have to look here to see if I've missed something that I want to tell you. You know, so that's an example of getting everything no matter what they want. It isn't how can I not help you? What can I do to help you? And you know what? You can't do it alone. You may as well make up your mind. You got 200 employees in your store, you better get them on board. And you got to do it every hour, every minute, every day. You don't talk customer service at this meeting and walk out and it's over with. This is not enough. Every minute, every hour, every day, and every employee. That's what it takes. And if you want to be the best, price will never be number one. We have a store, as Bill was telling you, down in Pueblo. We have a Cub Foods across the street from us. You can walk across the street and save 10%. And yet we do close to $600,000 a week. The Cub's doing 7 or 8. But I got to ask you, why are we doing this 600? It's not convenient. It's us. It's the difference. It's there. It's alive, and it's a religion. And you have to preach it. You have to teach it. You see, people say, how do you get this done? First of all, remember something. You're dealing with people, they always say, well, the kids today aren't like they used to be. Oh, yeah, right? Right. Wrong. They aren't like they used to be because they're more educated. And they want different things than you and I want. You know, this story about my dad walked 18 miles to work every day and all, that's history. They don't want to hear that. What you have to do is satisfy their needs. When you create an environment and a climate for people to succeed, they'll do it, and they'll go to hell for you and back. But you got to create it. You got to listen. You got to be able to say to employees, you're going to help them get off when they need to get off. You know, you can't let everybody off on Friday night, but my God, you got to be flexible. These young kids, people have other priorities. They got football, basketball, baseball, all those things. We're hiring them, and the first thing we do when we hire them, you're lucky to be here, by God. Don't dare ask for a day off. You can't have, why, this is the honor and glory of kings. Guy wants to go to his homecoming dance. Can you believe that? Boy, he's got nerve. He shouldn't have gotten hired on. You see, we have such high turnover in our courtesy clerk ranks that drive you nuts, and I don't know whether you have that problem, but ours is horrible. We had an assistant store manager made up his mind he's going to change this. He went to all the schools in the area, to the principal. He said, give me the names of your best kids. And he interviewed them to see if they'd like to work for Kings instead of the other way around. Then he went to the churches in the neighborhood. And by the way, this was not a premier store. It was in a lower income area, tough to get kids. Churches, and asked the same thing. And interviewed them. And guess what? He hired them, and he found out when they needed to be off, God forbid. And, okay, we'll work around it. And did the whole thing. In 6 months, never lost one courtesy clerk. Not one. Now, we have 69 stores, and I would argue that if one store can do it, 68 others can do the same thing. So first of all, the first thing is you got to hire right. And you got to hire right instead of just hire somebody that's walking and breathing is not it. Hire right. People have to understand what we're all about. You know what going to a store and I see this kid, he's stacking produce. I says, how's it going today? Terrible. I says, what's wrong? He says, I keep putting these apples on here and they keep taking them off. Well, I don't think he quite understands the name of this company or what we do with this business. Kids, you know, when we were 18, you go through life, people are in a rush, and they go through life, they count the days to be 21. Then when you're 21, you're counting the days to get married. Now, I got myself a girlfriend, we're going to get married. Count the days to that. Then you get married, the next thing you do, count the days to have kids. Next thing you do, beat goes on. Then you got 3 kids. First thing your wife says to you, God, if we could just get these kids out of grade school, man, we'll really be, okay, so we count the days to that. Now they're out of grade school. She says to you, oh my God, if we could just get them out of high school. And he says, yes, honey, then we'll be happy. Now we count the days to that. Now high school's done, and she says, my God, we got to get them out of college. That's right, sweetheart. We got to get them out of college. Well, then we'll count the days to that. So we rush through that. The beat goes on. Now we got him out of college. He comes home. He says, you know what? I think I can retire when I'm 60. She says, oh, good. We'll count the days together. We'll get to 60. We'll be happy. So we count the days. At age 60, he comes home. He says, you know what, honey? I got to apologize. I don't have enough money. We're going to have to wait till I'm 65. She says, that's okay, honey. I'll wait for you. We'll count the days together. We'll get to 65. Now he gets to 65. He gets his watch, his retirement check, first one. They're on an airplane to Hawaii. They get to Hawaii, lays down on the beach. He looks over at her and says, well, we made it. She says, yes, so? What do you think happened? They missed the trip. You're going to be 65 anyway. You may as well have fun going. What the hell? People actually tell me that they go to work and they hate their job. Probably not here, but in Denver they hate it. I said, you hate your job? Why do you do it? So, we need the money. You need the what? I need the money. I understand that. But money's only a byproduct of what you do. And let me tell you something. If money is the only motivator, the only one for people, I will guarantee you, you will never be happy. There ain't enough. There isn't enough. And I can prove that. Why is it that the people you know about and you read about in the newspapers are on drugs, jumping off bridges, been married 5 times, they're not happy? Why not? I would argue they're not doing what they want to do. They're not doing what they want to do, so the money thing isn't it. Now, don't get me wrong. You got to have money. I'm not arguing that. But it can't be the only motivator. People who are happy doing what they're doing, the money always follows. But you first get that done. Now, having said that, that has to be explained to people. You're dealing with young people that are coming up. That's what the difference is. Listen, the worst thing I read in the paper, I can't stand it. When they announce a guy's retirement, it says, Don Gallegos just announced his retirement at age 65, and he's now going to do what he's always wanted to do. 65 years? What a waste. Don't let that happen to you. We're all different ages now, and you can't change the past. But you can change tomorrow. And you can change it. And remember something, your people in our stores, the employees' attitude is your responsibility. And that if they got bad attitudes, it's your fault. Guy says, well, it's not any different than the guy who says, I am a leader. They just won't follow me. Yeah, okay, I understand. I got to tell you, and I've told you some of the horror stories, and we have a lot of them. What I didn't tell you either is, on these cards we code them. And we code them by department. So that at the end of 13 weeks, we can tell you how many complaints we're having on the deli at store 13. How many in the grocery, and so forth. Why? Not that we want to chew anybody out, but because we want to go back and visit with that department to see what we can do to improve the attitude. What is it that we're doing? How do we take it to a new level? 2 years ago, 32% of the cards we got were positive. Only 32%. Just think about this. King Soopers is the highest volume per store chain in Denver, probably the highest volume per store with that number in the United States, because we average almost 580,000 a week. And yet, think, 32% positive? I mean, what an opportunity. Last quarter just ended. We're at 49% positive. And yet, that means what? 49 is good. But there's 51% don't think so. 51% don't think so. And so we got to get it better. So we spent a lot of time on it, and I want to share with you some great stuff our employees did. I told you all the horror stories. I didn't tell them all, because if I told you all of them, you'd blow your brains out like I do. I sometimes, when I read them, I die. I just absolutely die. I get in my stomach, all I can think about is, why would this happen? I used to really get hot, but I'm more mature now. You see, I used to, when I read them, I get upset. But I saw something on 2021 night that changed my mind. They did a story on a car plant in Detroit where they had hired a supervisor from a Japanese auto. Excuse me, the other way around. A supervisor from General Motors went to work for a Japanese auto plant. And this supervisor had worked for GMC. And in Japan, and maybe in the Honda line here in the United States, when a car goes by and there's a defect on it, the employee can pull the chain and stops the whole line till they fix the defect. Any employee can do this. So the supervisor was getting ready to go home one night, and the owner of the plant says, "How'd it go today?" He says, "Terrible." He says, "Terrible? What do you mean terrible?" He said, "They stopped the line for 45 minutes. He said, "You didn't have a terrible day. You had a great day. Look what we learned." Isn't that something? So now when I get this bad card, I yell, "Look what we learned." Says I'm going to grab them by their throat. Anyway, we've had some great stories, and I will tell you what we do with these, and I'll show you some of that stuff. And by the way, I'm going to let you ask questions too, because I'd be more than happy to answer them. But I tell you these stories because after telling you the negatives, I want to share the positives, and I will tell you exactly what we do with those. But we have had some terrific stories. A checker by the name of Joe Hawkins was checking groceries out, and he noticed in the lady's purse that she had a Safeway preferred shopping card. And on the Safeway Preferred shopping card, because they buy purchases there, Safeway would send them in-house coupons, good on product, okay? Now, we're double coupons, but you don't double in-house coupons. So he saw those in there, and he said to the lady, if you'll give me those coupons, I'll double them for you. She said, pardon me? He says, no, if you give me those coupons, I'd double them for you. He said, you see, I'd rather have you a King Super shopper than a Safeway shopper. So she gives him the coupons, and while he's doubling them, she tears up her Safeway Preferred shopping card and says, I am now a King Super shopper. Now, let me tell you something. He didn't have to ask anybody. He didn't call management. He didn't call nobody. Why? He's been to this meeting. He understands. He's a very good employee. He wrote me a letter after that, and he said, you cannot believe. He says, you haven't, his words, you have empowered us to do it. And he said, if we don't do it, it's our fault. Thinking on his feet, wasn't he? Paying attention to the customer, paying attention to the guest, right there, right that minute. We had a floral manager in one of our stores. What happened was this guy, a lawyer, wrote me a letter. And as I'm reading the letter, I'm getting a little nervous because I hadn't read the whole story. He said, my daughter had been invited to the homecoming dance, and it was her first dance she'd ever been to. And she gets called Friday night, the night before the dance, by her date, and he cancels the date. Well, my daughter's beside herself, and my wife and I are beside ourselves. We can't believe this happened. This is terrible. She had her dress and the whole thing. So the next morning, he's still concerned about it. So he goes to the store. He told his wife, I'm going to go buy her something nice. So he goes to our floral department, and he says and he put this in the letter. He says, you know, they don't know me. And I start to tell the floral manager what happened. The floral manager couldn't believe it. Her sympathy was unheard of. I couldn't believe how she got into the story. So she told me, look, you come back in a couple hours, I'll have you something real nice. So he came back 2 hours later. Now the assistant floral manager's into the story. They're feeling terrible. This is awful. This is what happened to your daughter. Thanks him. Gets home. When he gets home, the phone rings. It's the floral manager. She says, we have a courtesy clerk that works here that goes to that high school. He will take your daughter to the dance. And the store took up a collection, paid for their dinner, and bought her corsage. Did they have to do that? No, but they did it. And you want to know something? That guy took that kind of time to write a letter to tell me about that. Isn't that something that employee would do that both of those employees? Oh, by the way, they're still dating. And, you know, I couldn't understand who would cancel the date on this girl. She's a wonderful looking girl. So anyway, that's it. We had a guy take pictures of dental equipment. And he was going to get a patent on them. So he sends the dental equipment to Los Angeles. See, we operate our own photo lab. And he sends it to Los Angeles, and he brings these pictures in. He needs to have them Monday because on Tuesday morning, some clients are coming in, and he wants to show them the pictures. Monday he goes into our store, can't find the pictures. We have a system where you relay and try to find them. Couldn't find them. Call the photo lab. Couldn't find them there. This guy's hot. The manager of the photo lab says, let me call him. So he called the customer. He says, where in Los Angeles is your dental equipment? And they told him it was in Glendora. I'll get back to you. He has a sister living in Glendora. He calls her on the phone. He says, get the yellow pages. Find me a photographer. Sent the photographer, same day, Monday, to go take pictures, retake them. And they took the film, undeveloped, and flew it ticket counter to ticket counter, United Airlines. I don't know why they didn't use American, but they didn't. And ticket counter, and our photo lab picked it up 10 o'clock Monday night, developed the pictures, and delivered them to him 7 o'clock on Tuesday morning, an hour ahead of the meeting. Was that service? And by the way, let me ask you something. Nobody asked the cost. I wouldn't dare. But let me tell you something else. You think it was $5,000? I don't. Guess what? He's still with us. It's an interesting story about that, though. I thought even more about that. I don't really, just put yourself in his place. Do you really give a damn what we did? All you wanted was your pictures, right? That's all you want. Don't tell me what you had to do. I gave you plenty of time. That's why that's so important. And that guy that runs the photo lab knew that we wouldn't do anything but have him do what it would take. Humanly possible to do, and he did it. Didn't have to ask anybody. Never called anybody. Just did it. He's got a boss, but he didn't call him. He just did it, which is what he's supposed to do. And by the way, that guy did write us a letter on that, even thanking us for when he found out what we had done. You know, I told you about that refund thing, and I forgot to tell you this story where, you know, a guy buys a Nintendo game down in Pueblo, and he claims it broke his TV set. And the manager wanted to know what to do about it because the guy wanted us to fix it. And the DM says, well, how much is it? He says, it's $28. Well, pay it. He said, no, you don't understand. The guy at the TV store said that didn't break the TV. And the DM says, fine. Well, let me ask you something. If we fix it and he stays shopping with us, we get our $28 back, don't we? If he thinks it did it and he goes someplace else, we're out. So pay it. What if everybody wants their TV fixed? You know what? It's been 5 years and nobody's asked. We had we give out, the Dillon companies, we give out the President's Choice Award for the best customer service story of the year. And the way we do it is this. Each division, we have 5 supermarket divisions and 8 convenience stores. Each division accumulates and votes on their top 5 stories. And then we send our 5 stories to the corporate office, and the other presidents vote which one's number 1. I get to do the same thing. I vote on theirs. And for 2 years in a row, we have had 2 winners tie. They couldn't break the tie. So they each win. And they get 50 shares of Kroger stock and a big plaque, and we recognize them at the awards banquet and all. Do you know that the first winner didn't work at retail? Marion Grayson, produce clerk in the produce warehouse, who goes to my meetings every quarter. And we always give them a strong message to customers. The purpose of the meeting isn't the numbers. Hell, that's history. We're not here for history. We're here for the future. So we give them the numbers anyway. That's a short part of the meeting. The next part is, where do we go? Marion Grayson's in a store, standing behind a guy at the pharmacy. He's picking up his prescription. He's got a full shopping cart full of groceries. Picks up the prescription. He says to the pharmacist, the price on this isn't the same as the price up there. It's higher. The pharmacist said, the sign's wrong. He said, the hell with you, I don't want it. And he threw it, and he started to walk out of the store, and Marion Grayson stopped him. Said, excuse me, I'm an employee of King Soopers. Would you let me get the manager to correct this? He said, yes. She went on to say, that's not our policy. So she got the manager, and the manager took care of it. Of course, you know what happened, don't you? He got the prescription free. Now what would that cost us? I wonder how many of us would do that. I wonder how many of us go into a Kroger store that's not your own, and you see a problem, and you don't do anything about it. Now, that doesn't mean you got to make a list and all that, but my God, we should not complain. Give it to somebody that can do something to make it better, not to complain. Because some people say, oh, I don't want to get him in trouble. No, hell, let's all go down the tube happy. What do you mean, how to get him in trouble? Don't you think the store manager wants to know? Don't you as a manager want to know? Sure you do. So you get everybody in the boat together because it's their life, it's their career, it's their future. That's why. Produce clerk, produce forklift operator, 23-year employee. We give out a free cookie to the kids. You don't have to have a card, nothing. Just give them the cookie. Okay? That's why it's been a long time we've had that free cookie. So he's standing behind a dad and his 2 little girls. And the little girl says to the bakery clerk, I like that free cookie. And she says, that's not the free cookie. The free cookie's over there. And the little girl says, but I want that one. And she says, no, the free one's over there. Produce, could hurt her gross. So the produce clerk says, excuse me, give him the cookies, I'll pay for them. The dad says, no, sir, you don't need to do that. He says, no, you don't understand. I'm an employee, King Soopers. That's not our policy. So he does it. He pays for it. And he tells the bakery clerk, that's how you lose customers. Now, let me tell you something. Is it the bakery clerk's fault? No. You want to know why? I'll bet you in training class that the bakery manager said, by the way, the free cookies are over there. What if everybody wanted those? Yeah, I know. Geez, we have all that stuff. You see, we write these great books, these great training manuals and all that. Where in the training manual does it say that if a kid wants a different cookie, give it to him? You can't print it, can you? I had a lady call just 3 weeks ago. I fell into my chair. Now, I don't know why they do this to me on Monday, but they did. She was in a store shopping, wrote her check, and the check got eaten in the scanning thing, went underneath, see? So the checker calls the head clerk. There are two of them. They're trying to find it. They can't get it. There's a $42.88 check. Our life and death hang on $42, see? They made her write out another check and said, if we find it, we give it back to you, yeah? So she calls me. She says, I got a concern about that. I says, so do I. What do you think we're doing that day? That's right. She got her groceries free. Period. Where in the training manual does it say that? Where in the training manual does it say to the checker, think, my God, think? So, anyway. Anybody have any questions? Because I'm about at the end of the time. I know you guys are bored with this stuff, but I got to bring you up to date. If you have any questions about anything, I'd be glad to share them with you. No? Hey, Bill, do you mind if I just tell them about a new thing we're doing? I want to show you something, and this is really new. We have decided, by the way, this comes from going to long-range planning. I forgot to add on to that. We do the long-range planning every year, but every month, the first Monday of every month, that long-range planning committee meets to find out how we're doing. Because we have committees coming up with new programs. You see, I always tell them, I says, I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want. And we don't want these complaints. I said, what's your goal? 100% to the top. Because you know why? We benchmark after a lot of companies. We don't just benchmark after supermarkets. We benchmark after the Ritz-Carlton. Have you ever stayed in a Ritz-Carlton? Anybody? Ever? Never? Save your money. Costs you plenty. But they get it. Those guys know what they're doing. The presidents of Dillon's went and listened to the president of Ritz-Carlton. They won the Malcolm Baldrige Award. We wanted to know how they do it. How did you do that? And it's amazing. The hotel that won it in Boston, this will knock your socks off. 420 employees in that hotel, speaking 40 languages, and they're union. They're union. You can't blame the union now, can you? Huh? Everybody says, we could do it if we weren't union. Yeah, right. We got 13 stores, non-union stores, and I would argue the service isn't any better there than it is in the union stores. And so I will tell you this, if you're thinking that, get off of it. The difference is you. You. Nobody else. Can't blame anybody else. But anyway, we have come up with an idea. The committee did. And they said, how do we empower the employees and let them know it's okay? So every employee is given a book. Every employee. You hear me? The bagger, everybody. The backroom guy, the maintenance guy, the guy who sweeps the floor, he's got one too. And whenever a guest has a bad experience, they write out and give them a coupon that is good for either a free video rental, half-gallon of ice cream, or a free teleshop. We're in the home delivery business, and we give them free delivery. And it reads, I'm sincerely sorry we fell short of meeting your expectations. Please accept this certificate as a token of apology on behalf of the King Soopers family. Now the employee writes on there what happened and whether the manager needs to follow up. We are getting, on the average, in 69 stores, 2,800 of these a week. 2,800! My God, those are 28 incidences that we would never know about. Give you an example, and they write on here. I wanted to go through them. I'm amazed at what our employees will do now that they never would have done. Because you know what they're saying to us now is, well, you've given us something to give them. Before, all I could say, I'm sorry. But now I can do something. Now he hands it to them. A customer was going through and she was complaining about bad service at the other check stand last week on George. She reached in, I apologize for that bad service. One lady complained about bad service at Albertsons, and we gave her a certificate. So, sorry you had that bad service. And you know what? Think about it. When anybody tells you that they got bad service, even if it wasn't your store, give them something. You know, that's terrible that happened to you. It's great. How can you get more powerful than that? Will competition do that? Hell no, they won't do it. And so see, let me tell you something. We're going to have 4 Super Ks opening in the end of August. And I'm going to tell you something. Walmart and Kmart, they may have changed the rules on logistics. They may have changed the rules on how you procure product. They may have changed the rules on building big stores. But I got news for them. When they come to Denver, King Soopers has changed the rules on customer service. It is no longer satisfactory to say, thank you for shopping Kmart. That's not it. And I will tell you this, are we going to lose volume? You bet. But I'll guarantee you it'll be back. Because they're not going to get what they make it. They'll get price, but they ain't going to get the rest. They'll never do it. We had an Albertson store open near one of our stores a month ago, and 7 prescriptions got transferred in the first week. Week 3, 4 of them came back. And I tell you why they came back. It wasn't price. Service. They didn't like what they were getting. I hope we get the other 3. We haven't got them yet, but we'll get there. But it's very powerful. So I wanted to share that with you because this is relatively new. We've only been into this for a couple of months, and we're going to track it. We're going to keep on it, and then every employee that works in the office, the meat plant, the warehouses, they're going to have that. They're going to have a book too, so that no matter where they're at, you're going out to a party, somebody says something, take care of them right now. You don't have to ask, just do it. Just do it. So it's very important. Okay. Any questions? No questions? What an easy audience, you guys. Well, I appreciate you having me, Bill. I'm very happy to have been here, and it was nice to be invited back. There's a sign in the Leo Burnett Advertising Agency as you walk into his building. He's probably the best advertising agency in the country. He's come along with a whole lot of stuff. The Jolly Green Giant, the Maytag Man, they're the creators of that. There's a sign that says, when you reach for the stars. You may not get one, but you don't get a handful of mud either. And the last thing I leave you with is, don't miss the trip. Thanks for having me.